Okay, so forget pretty much everything you learned in history class. We're about to dive into a theory that says our entire world is literally built on the ruins of this magnificent, lost empire, an empire that was deliberately scrubbed from our memory. This is the wild and super controversial story of Tartaria.
So it all kicks off with this one simple question. You can actually see this for yourself in almost any old city. You know those huge, grand stone buildings from the 1800s? Ever notice how there are windows and doors that are like half buried by the street? Now, the official story is they're just basement windows. But what if they're not basements? What if our streets are just way, way higher than they used to be?
You see, people who believe in this theory say these aren't just quirky architectural choices. No, they're clues. Clues that our entire accepted timeline of history, the one from cavemen to us, is a carefully constructed lie, and that we are, in fact, living amongst the ruins of a far more advanced global civilization. So what was this civilization? Well, the theory points to one single powerful answer that you won't find in any modern textbook: the lost empire of Grand Tartaria. And we're not talking about just some little regional kingdom. No, theorists claim that Grand Tartary was this enormous, globe-spanning civilization. It was centered in Siberia, sure, but it had outposts on every single continent, including right here in North America. And this was no primitive society. We're talking about a culture built on technology that could rival or maybe even beat our own. And here's where things get really, really strange. If you go look at a 1771 Encyclopedia Britannica, you'll find this huge territory called Tartary, and it's described as the largest country on Earth. But then you check the 1824 edition, and it's just gone, completely vanished from the map. So the question is, how does the world's largest country just disappear? The theory proposes a single cataclysmic event that caused all this. An event that didn't just bring down an empire, but physically buried it, leaving behind those strange sunken windows that we started with. They call this event the Mud Flood. The whole idea is that sometime around the 1840s, this bizarre worldwide disaster buried the ground floors of buildings across the globe under a thick layer of mud and salt. I mean, from St. Petersburg all the way to San Francisco, the entire landscape was basically reset. And this brings us right back to that critical point. Mainstream history tells us our ancestors built these incredible cities from the ground up. But this theory asks a totally different question. What if they didn't? What if the so-called pioneers and founders of our modern cities were actually just excavators? People who found these magnificent half-buried cities, cleaned them out, and then just claimed them as their own. So, if we didn't build them, who did? And what were they actually for? Well, the theory claims they weren't just buildings. No, they were functional pieces of some kind of lost technology, a planetary, wireless energy grid. Now, here's how this incredible tech supposedly worked. The buildings themselves were basically power plants. The brick and quartz masonry, it acted like a giant battery, just storing up a charge. And all those ornate metal spires and domes, they weren't just for looks, they were antennas, pulling this ambient energy, what they call etheric energy, right out of the air. The result? Free, clean, wireless power for the entire civilization. I mean, this one idea just reframes everything we think we know about old architecture. That beautiful cathedral isn't just a place for worship, it's a power station. A geometric star fort isn't for military defense, it's an energy grid stabilizer. And those magnificent old fire stations, they were more like pumping stations, distributing all that harvested energy through the city. Okay, but if a world with free energy existed, why don't we have it now? The theory's answer is pretty dark and deliberate. After the mud flood, a new group of controllers took over and orchestrated this massive cover-up to erase all knowledge of the civilization that came before. They call it a Great Reset. The timeline for this alleged cover-up is just chillingly methodical. First, you have the mud flood in the 1840s, wiping the slate clean. Then, in the 1870s, a series of great fires conveniently burned down any remaining architectural evidence in major cities. After that, the World's Fairs are used to show off and then immediately demolish the last remnants of Tartarian cities. And finally, the so-called Orphan Trains arrive, repopulating these empty cities with new people who have zero memory of the world that came before. Yeah, this wasn't just a series of accidents. The theory says that the Great Fires of Chicago and San Francisco were totally intentional, that the orphans were a blank slate, ready to be taught a new, fabricated history. It even claims institutions like the Smithsonian were basically created to hide inconvenient evidence, like the skeletons of a race of giants who were supposedly the builders of this lost world. I know, this all sounds like a sprawling work of fiction, a crazy sci-fi story, but the theory's most compelling and frankly unsettling claim is that the evidence for all of this isn't locked away in some secret vault. It's all around us, every single day. The proof, they argue, is hiding in plain sight. It's in every single buried window, every oversized doorway, every magnificent building that we're told was built by guys with horses and hand tools. We've all just been conditioned to accept the official story and to never, ever ask the obvious questions. And so that leaves us with this final, really provocative question. What if the beautiful old world architecture we all admire isn't a relic of some primitive past, but a monument to a far more advanced future that was stolen from us? A world of clean, free energy and incredible beauty that's now just a ghost in the machine of our modern world, just waiting to be remembered.